Hello, I'm Dr. Eric Potter. This is another little video that we have put together to help our patients. This particular video is going to talk about the Nutreval test from a company called Genova. This is a test we use quite a bit in determining what are the root causes of someone's suffering so that we know how to begin restoring their health and cultivating health in their lives. So with that, this is an organic acid testing combined with some fatty acid testing, toxicity testing, mineral testing, vitamin type testing. Altogether, the reason called Nutreval is a nutritional evaluation. It's a good overall picture. Doesn't go into super detail in every last thing, but it gives us a good overall picture. So if we have sent this to you, it is likely that we've either ordered this test for you and you're waiting for the results, or this test has already been done. If you're waiting for the results, it takes 3 or 4 weeks, so be patient with us. It takes a while for those to get back. If it's already been done and you're getting ready to meet with me, this is a good video to watch right before that meeting, so that way you get a little head start on understanding this test. It's a very complicated test, several pages, and having watched this, you'll understand it even better and get more out of it when we're discussing it. Now, the first thing I tell everybody, the first several pages you'll see in the portal on our system, you can look at the entire report. Once we've seen it, we release it for you to look at it yourself. When you do that, ignore the first several pages where it's, oh, you should take this much of this much of that. This is exact 25 milligrams of this you need. That's computer generated. Based on the lab results, they say, oh, we're estimating for a person of your sex and your age and whatever, this is what you need. Doesn't take into account any of the factors we've talked about in a 90-minute visit of, oh, well, you have this symptom. Oh, you have this dietary issue that you're facing. It is just what the computer would spit out. Now, what I end up personalizing for you is going to be very similar to that, but just for right now, ignore that completely. Just go down to the page that has a big blue circle and flip to the next page. That's where we will start at the visit, looking through the different sections from GI to energy cycle, neurotransmitters, vitamins, amino acids, toxicities, fatty acids, minerals, oxidative stress, heavy metals. We'll go through those sections, individual tests and the sections as a whole. We'll go back and forth between those different sections. So, as we talk about it right now, I do want to remind you, there's a sample report, fake patient. You're not looking at anybody else's information and not your information, that is available for you to download. So as you're watching this video, you can say, oh, I can see page 7 shows this section, I can see what he's talking about. It's going to be really helpful. So then when you're looking at your report, you're going to have a head start on understanding that. Now, on the report, the first thing we'll look at is GI section. It's going to look at malabsorption, bacterial dysbiosis, and yeast dysbiosis. This is a good example of where we're going to look at some tests and ignore others. There are some tests where I say, 99% of the time, this is abnormal. And it's usually because the patients coming to see me are eating healthy, and these foods can influence some of these tests. So if I tell you don't worry about it, that means don't worry about it. With that, looking at the GI test, you're going to look at malabsorption. If these levels are high, these are chemicals in your blood or your urine, depending on different tests, that are elevated or too low, that indicate there is either something being produced too much or not enough. So with malabsorption, if say your phenylacetic acid level is high, it means you're not likely digesting and absorbing food that you eat as well, and we may talk about using digestive enzymes. The bacterial dysbiosis markers. These are indications that there are bacteria in your gut that are producing chemicals that may or may not be causing you symptoms from those exact chemicals, but may indicate that your gut is imbalanced, your gut is not healthy, and it could be contributing to your symptoms, and that will be part of what that I try to help you to determine. May recommend probiotics or a change in diet. Looking then at the yeast dysbiosis. There's 3 markers down there. Maybe one is a little elevated, we'll overlook, but if you have sugar craving or you have brain fog after carbs, and we look at, oh, you've got 1, 2, maybe even 3 of those markers that are elevated, we're probably going to be talking about some therapies to get rid of that yeast in your gut. Then we move on to the energy cycle, which is going to look about how you process carbohydrates, fats, and proteins through that cycle to produce energy. So if you're fatigued, there may be things we see here. There's a vitamin deficiency. Oh, there's a toxicity. Oh, there's a genetic roadblock that we need to work around to get your health better. Looking at, are you processing fats in the fatty acid section to say, oh, you actually need some carnitine so that you can actually get those fatty acids from your cells into the mitochondria, the furnaces, to burn for energy. Then we can look at the next section up at the top right is neurotransmitters. This is a very short panel. It's mildly helpful at times. There's a much longer panel from a different company if we're looking at neurotransmitters that I will use, but it gives us an idea, especially with the kynurenic acid or quinolinic acid, looking about for brain inflammation or deficiencies of vitamin B6. Then we look at a very helpful panel of vitamin markers. Now, most of these markers are not specific for one vitamin, so saying that this marker is up, oh, you need B2, or this marker is B3, or this marker is B5, except for two. Most of them, though, could have 3 or 4 different reasons. The two that do have specific things are going to be the formoaminoglutamic acid, FIGLU, F-I-G-L-U. If it's elevated, you probably most likely have a problem with folates, and we may talk about methylfolate, folinic acid being added to your diet in some form or fashion, or supplemented. Methylmalonic acid is pretty specific for vitamin B12 sufficiency. Now, we still have to figure out, is it because you're not eating enough, because you're vegetarian, whether you're not absorbing it when you do eat it, you may get it eating a ton, but either bacteria in your gut are using it up, or you're not able to transport it into the cells where it needs to function to lower your amount of methylmalonic acid. Now, those other markers overlap a lot. Sometimes they can be a toxicity, sometimes they can be a deficiency, but we'll look at them as a unit and say, oh, this points towards, say, vitamin B2 being a problem. Then overall we'll look and say, oh yes, we think you need these B vitamins in low, medium, or high dosing, and also determining, oh, let's do these at a little higher dosing for a month, and then we can back off, and you may not need as much in the long run once we get them repleted. And then we look at some toxicity markers, whether you're being exposed to too much plastics, some gasoline products, how you're processing your toxins in your body. It's a very short panel again, kind of like the neurotransmitters. There's a whole lot of other panels we can look at for toxicity, but this is a good start to giving us an idea about those things. Then we look at some amino acids on the next page. Amino acids are the smallest building blocks of proteins. Proteins are what you need for skin, eyes, nerves, all your tissue, enzymes. Structurally and functionally, you need proteins. If you don't get enough amino acids, you can't build those proteins in order to do all those functions that you need. So we look, where are you on that green, that red, green, red spectrum? Are you getting too little? Especially if they're all on the left side and you're really low in protein, I'll often suggest you need to add 10, 15, 20, 30 grams of protein more into your diet. Especially say, oh, you've been on a very low calorie diet. Okay, you need to add some more protein in or you're not going to be able to function well. There's going to be times when we look at specific amino acids, say cysteine can be rate limiting, meaning if you don't have enough, you can't make glutathione, which is an extremely important antioxidant in all your cells that you need for detox, you need for removing different chemicals, for your mitochondria to work well, for your methylation cycle to work well. Not having enough of that can be an issue, so we may say, oh, let's put you on some N-acetylcysteine to raise that up. We also look at other amino acids that may be too high. A really high level of taurine may have two issues. One, it could be gut dysbiosis. Imbalances in the gut bacteria can cause you to have high taurine. Also, spilling a lot of taurine into your urine can take a lot of magnesium, so it may make you more prone to having low magnesium, muscle cramps, poor energy cycle functioning. So we're going to look at those amino acids, and we may use those to guide us. Oh, your tyrosine is low. Your genetics are such that if we give you a little tyrosine, we can produce more dopamine, which could raise your focus, help with ADHD, sometimes help with brain fog. Now, don't go and start that just because if you see your test is low. Let's talk about that, because there's sometimes some genetics, if we've done a 23andMe on you, that say, oh, actually giving that, your dopamine beta hydroxylase, your DBH enzyme is too fast. We could actually get you, whoa, off the other ditch and too hyper, too focused, and causing anxiety. So let's talk about that. But those are some examples. And then on the top right of that same page, you're going to look at some other B vitamin markers. A lot of this looks at your function of B6, whether your methylation, your transsulfuration cycle is working, whether you're clearing out sulfur well. Then we can look at your urea cycle. Before glycine is the urea cycle, whether you're processing ammonia from your amino acids. If those are high, you may not be clearing that out. You can get brain fog. A lot of patients with liver failure will have that issue. Or if you're eating a really, really high protein diet and wondering why you're feeling worse, it could be because you're not clearing out the urea. We want to look at your glycine and your serine. Those markers are telling us, are you able to use glycine to make glutathione along with cysteine and glutamine? Using glycine to also detox. There's a number of chemicals you will attach glycine to in order to excrete it and poop it out. So with that, we need to know what your levels are and determine, oh yeah, we need to give you a little bit extra by either just eating more protein or sometimes recommending a particular supplement like glycine. From there, we're going to look at some other markers that are going to help us tell whether or not you're processing different things, particularly looking at next your fatty acids. So your fatty acids are your omega-3s, your omega-6s, your omega-9s, your saturated fat, your trans fats. On this page, it really is helping us determine whether your tendency is toward anti-inflammation or towards inflammation. We want aim for around 9% of the omega-3s, and that can come from different plant or animal sources. The most important being EPA and DHA, which are the more fish sources. But if you're getting ALA at the very top of that chart, some people can convert that down into the lower ones, but we can talk about that, whether that applies to you. We'll look at omega-9s, which come